Rising 14,179 feet into the skies is magnificent Mount Shasta, the dominant landmark of Northern California, looming high above its pristine and unique bioregion. It is the pure source of water that flows as far as San Francisco Bay and San Diego, bringing fertility to the rich food-producing Sacramento Valley.
These are places that allow us to redefine our connection with life on Earth. It's vastly important that we preserve these wild places. And Mount Shasta in particular has a role to play as a place of attunement. It's known all over the world as one of the sacred mountains of the world that have this role. It's a natural temple, it's a natural sanctuary where people come specifically for this purpose. When we hear the wind, the songs of birds, when we see this beauty and this grandeur, we can get beyond our human pettiness, our power plays, our ego-centered self-interest, and we can come in touch with a larger vision. We need these mountains of sacredness to get in touch with our knowing so that we can bring it into the valleys of our lives and touch every facet with sacredness.
We live in critical times. Industrial pressures are impacting our very life support system all over the world. Entire ecosystems are in peril. Species are becoming extinct. Many beautiful places have been changed forever. Hunger for resources has depleted our forests, polluted our air and water, affected Earth's climate. Everything we care about is at risk. Pressures have reached all the way to Mount Shasta.
For over 20 years, the Mount Shasta Bioregional Ecology Center has been protecting the integrity of large ecosystems such as Mount Shasta and the Medicine Lake Highlands from misguided development. We have prevailed against multi-billion-dollar interests, ensuring that California's major water sources remain pure. The forests healthy, the viewsheds beautiful, ancient cultures alive, the land and communities cared for.
We are listening to the mountain and its spiral of light. We hear the need for pristine sanctuaries, for experiencing nature in its wholeness.
Today, people come from around the world to experience healing and recreational opportunities on Mount Shasta. In this time of change, it is more important than ever to preserve the integrity of places where we can still listen and renew ourselves.
Our Save Mount Shasta campaign started in 1988. We challenged the commercialization of the mountain, which culminated a decade later by defeating a large ski condominium resort. The real significance isn't just that we defeated the ski condominium development. It's that in those 10 years, the community started to see Mount Shasta differently. Even the developer conceded that the mountain has a cultural value. More recently, the geothermal industry has proposed as much as 5 polluting power plants that could cover 13 square miles high on the slopes of Mount Shasta near the wilderness. It's inconceivable for Mount Shasta to be anything but the wild and sacred mountain it is.
Our people still rely on these sacred places to go to so that we can hear what these places are saying to the people. And these sacred places will speak to the people. They will show them and let them see what is ahead of us. And one of these places is Mount Shasta in Northern California, where the Wintu people and many other tribes live in that area. And there have been many tribes in the past, down through the generations, that have used this place as an altar to communicate with the Creator and to direct their lives as individuals, as a people, as a tribe.
Forests are the lungs of our planet, sources of medicines, purifiers of waters, havens of biodiversity. Now we're working with the Forest Service in restoring areas of Mount Shasta through our HOME project. HOME, an acronym for Honor Our Mountain Environment. The Ecology Center takes forest protection seriously through persistent involvement in environmental review processes and through restoration projects. By giving input early, we're acting on our vision that forest health needs to take precedence over resource extraction, and that this can be achieved through the collaborative efforts of all involved.
The Ecology Center has expanded since we began focusing on Mount Shasta, and so we had to really broaden our focus. Between them, the Mount Shasta and Medicine Lake volcanoes store 60 years worth of pristine crystalline waters in underground aquifers that hold more than all of California's surface reservoirs combined.
We are listening to the Medicine Lake Highlands and the cultural roots in the land.
Land itself is spiritual, just like the sky. And then there are certain places in the country that are little special places that you can actually receive the Spirit yourself.
Medicine Lake Highlands is this amazing, one of those vast landscapes where the magic and the mystery literally breathes into you. 30 miles northeast of Mount Shasta, and the Lava Beds National Monument is just on the edge of the caldera. And the features in this landscape, the names are like symbolic of what is there. You have Glass Mountain, burnt lava flow, the Jotdine ice caves. You have the Mount Hoffman roadless area, and Medicine Lake itself, the name, Medicine Lake, the healing powers of the waters there. And, it just doesn't make any sense to put an industrial complex, right in the Medicine Lake Highlands. It's not really green energy in this sense when you have cooling towers that are over 100 feet tall, that literally would be the highest building in all of Siskiyou County, with emissions of toxic hydrogen sulfide gas, drilling rigs that have to drill wells down to 9,000 feet, where a company has to dump toxic acids like hydrochloric acid and hydrofluoric acid, literally funneling it down into the earth and try to break open and create a resource. It doesn't make any sense to put geothermal industrial projects in the heart of the sacred Medicine Lake Highlands. There's too many risks, there's too many impacts, and it isn't in harmony with what the land is about and what its essence is. With the Medicine Lake Highlands, we want to see that whole vast, amazing, magic, mysterious landscape permanently protected for our future generations to come.
This is not a low-risk geothermal development like the geysers or like Long Valley Caldera. The Medicine Lake Highlands have a tremendous value to all of California downstream from it. The water from the Medicine Lake Highlands from Siskiyou County is vital to San Diego County. You people at the head of California hold the state of California. in your hands.
We are listening to the waters.
People living around Mount Shasta are the fortunate heirs of this tremendous natural heritage. And it's our incredible opportunity and great challenge to preserve it for other species and future generations. When Nestle arrived on the scene almost 7 years ago, Mount Shasta already had 2 major multinational corporations sucking undisclosed amounts of water from our aquifers, which are relatively poorly understood.
The watersheds that Mount Shasta and the Medicine Lake Plateau and Highlands, the Modoc Plateau supply, the McLeod, the Upper Sac, the Pit, the Shasta, and the Shasta supporting the Klamath. Those are some of the most critical watersheds in the state. They provide most of the water. A lot of really critical resources that supported and continue to support a huge number of people find their aquatic origins here.
It's like our own heart. You know, if you go to give blood, you don't take it out of, they don't take it out of your heart. They take it out of your arm, you know? And that's a very benevolent gift that we have that we can give. But to drill into the mountain, into the aquifer, is like drilling into the heart of source, and it should never happen.
The initial threat that we felt from Nestle was that they had not really come complete with the truth to us. The meeting had been held in an undemocratic process. We had been promised a hearing. There was no hearing. The community was essentially left in the dark to a lot of the factors. Well, once you start learning about the waters of Mount Shasta, you realize that giving essentially a great deal of our water to a multinational corporation to turn into a commodity, truck it out, and sell it somewhere in plastic bottles, which now become a huge problem for municipalities all over the state, not counting the bottles that are alongside the oceans and everywhere else. That this problem, which was taking our source water, which we felt was initially the wrong thing, had turned into so many different situations. When Nestle prepared their contract, which was signed by our Community Services District, which was our water board, the water board agreed to give Nestle 1,250 gallons per minute of water from our spring water sources, which were owned by our community, to Nestle for a term of 100 years. After 6 years and more attempts by Nestle to gain a foothold and negotiate for a new contract, their plans failed and democracy prevailed.
Now that Nestle has withdrawn, at least for the time being, I think we have a real opportunity regionally. One of the gifts from Nestle was a real activation in the community around water issues and a lot of new science to really support more effective stewardship of water.
The people are right now coming together to proactively steward our resources, which in order to do so, we need to prevent further threats. And the two threats, the main threats up here right now are extraction through water bottling and contamination and manipulation through cloud seeding.
We are listening to communities surrounding Mount Shasta.
There's a quality and a wholeness to nature here. There's a bioregion still relatively intact, still relatively very clean air. The waters are still pure. It became apparent to me that we're not immune to the desire to exploit the resources here, to extract the resources, and to, if the people didn't stand up and speak out and work towards upholding the environmental laws that we do have, that this could be very quickly destroyed. So more recently, I've been really involved with the proposal to build a 15 megawatt wood-fired power plant within the city, or very close to the city limits of Weed. And on the surface, it appears to make sense to use biomass to make electricity. But when you put it right in the middle of a city, a few hundred feet from children and schools, without the best air pollution control, without following environmental law, then we have to stand up and say, wait a minute, this is not the kind of economic growth that will benefit us in the long run. So we have been actively involved in this in order to see that the environmental laws are upheld and balance the economic needs with our need to be healthy and have resources here for many generations to come.
We are listening to the children.
It's a really important time for each of us to individually listen within our own beings of where we're called, where we're inspired to become involved or to participate and be part of the solution, because there's a whole shift happening that respects our earth, our environment, that which is the foundation that gives us life. And it's time now.
It's clear we need to go beyond the industrial model that is destroying the earth to a new relationship to the land, to the water, to our own souls, to act as guides that will lead us to a life-sustaining society. The Ecology Center is a needed voice in a process that's dominated by special interests. We are a counterbalance, standing up for the land, the water, the trees. These aren't merely issues, they're about survival itself. In an atmosphere of overwhelming odds, the Mount Shasta Bioregional Ecology Center and our Native American and environmental allies are holding a place for the sacred.
Mm-hmm.